What if I told you that ignoring your garden here in October is going to be the reason your garden fails next year? Today's video, we are going to look at 3 science-backed activities you can do here in October. And no, it does not include planting garlic. I can guarantee you 2 out of 3 of these you've never heard before. So to stay with the theme of October and the soullessness of my red hair, let's open up with the first tip, and it looks like something reminiscent of a garden horror story, and that involves burying the dead. So UC Davis and the Applied Journal of Microbiology did a study on beneficial microbes and how to increase them within your soil. And one thing that came from that in particular was from the world of tomatoes. So it turns out tomato debris can actually help increase beneficial microbes such as the bacillus and the trichoderma within your soil. Now, this doesn't simply mean just laying them on the soil surface or leaving them in situ. What it does mean is actually burying them kind of in place. The key here is going to be making sure, obviously, that the debris you're burying is not diseased, so it doesn't have any sort of fungal rot. And as long as it doesn't have that, you can bury it under the soil surface, not too far, only like an inch at most. And it will decrease things like root rot, and also even fusarium wilt was shown to be decreased by around 20 to 30%. Which is quite a bit, to be honest, just from burying tomato debris. And the reason for this comes down to a number of different things. But obviously, the debris itself is a food source for the bacillus and the trichoderma, which in turn then feeds on harmful pathogens next year. It also could, hypothetically, be releasing a chemical that is higher in accumulation within a tomato plant, which in turn will affect the populations of very specific types of critters on the microbe scale. We know this happens because we've spoken about allelopathic properties within soil or compost that can arise that actually suppress the growth of some seeds. Well, this is the similar idea, but in regards to your soil. Bugs. So I promised I wasn't going to speak about garlic, and I'm not speaking about garlic. I'm actually speaking about mycorrhizal fungi, which is something that I've told you guys repeatedly is completely useless in the world of annual garden beds. The only time it is applicable is within things like established bush or shrubbery spaces or perennial beds that you do not intend to disturb. The exception to this rule that I've never discussed before is actually with garlic. Okay, so here's the thing. Mycorrhizal fungi can colonize within the soil in around 1 week. That means it is functioning in a capacity that is beginning to release hyphae and form a symbiosis with the roots of the plant. Now, in the case of garlic, we can apply this mycorrhizal fungi now when we actually plant the garlic and or after the garlic is planted by broadcasting it on the soil surface. And the reason why this matters is because that mycorrhizal fungi is going to begin colonizing now. It is going to continue to colonize that soil, those roots, the entire space until everything freezes absolutely solid, which even in my incredibly cold zone 3, some years may not be until the beginning of December. So that gives it like a month, 2 months to do its best with the soil. And then the moment the ground begins to warm up and thaw out, that microbial activity begins to kick up again before you even start getting into the garden to do much of anything, which means it has an extra probably month or 2 longer than what it normally would have in most circumstances. Top that off with the fact that you don't usually harvest the garlic until mid to late summer, and you quickly can see how long that mycorrhizal fungi is sitting in situ, how long it is actually developing that symbiosis with the garlic, and in turn, studies back this up. Turns out that garlic, despite the fact that it is annual in the sense that we are going to pull it out of the soil, disrupt all the hyphae that is formed, can increase yields by up to 25%. And if we did plant our garlic early and we have greenery and roots beginning to sprout, Well, the addition of this mycorrhizal fungi can actually help this plant overwinter better throughout those winter months because of the colonization that can happen within that first week here in the fall. So, bottom line is adding the mycorrhizal fungi to where you have your garlic planted, and of course, add it to any sort of space that you're doing perennial garden, trees, shrubs, you get the idea. But before we work on the rest of my Halloween display by burying plants and my enemies, let's talk about today's sponsor, Skillshare. If you are already missing green things in your life, then Skillshare is definitely the platform you want to check out. They've been a sponsor of this channel for years now. And the reason for that is because I do believe, Geek Crew, that you are both curious, creative, and ultimately a group of people that are overachievers when it comes to just life in general. I spoke about this class last month, and I like it enough and think it still applies so much so that I'm going to recommend it again this month. And that is Indoor Gardening, Growing Houseplants, Veggies, and Herbs by Ekta Chowdhury. So this entire course actually teaches you how to grow a number of different plants indoors. And this isn't just simply growing ferns, it's growing things that are edible, that are going to reduce your grocery list, that are going to help with your health and help you continue to practice the art of gardening. So if you've ever thought to yourself, I can't garden in the winter, this course is going to prove you wrong.
It's also important to mention that there's an endless list of categories when it comes to the courses you can take, whether you're trying to learn about illustration, drawing, crocheting, crafts, art, productivity, entrepreneurship, you name it. They are all in Skillshare. The first 500 people to click my link in the description or scan the QR code on this screen will get 1 month free of Skillshare. Trust me, it is worth it.
Skillshare, thank you so much for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back into carbon banking, which tends to look better than my actual bank account, my all measures. Okay, carbon banking. I personally like to do this with leaves above all else. The addition of carbon can increase your cation exchange capacity. It can increase your water holding capacity. It can help with overwintering of bulbs, tubers, perennials in general, seeds you've planted, reduce erosion. Literally, the benefits are endless. However, the key here is ideally shredded leaves. So I've had a number of different leaf blowers in my life, some useless, some not. One that is great at blowing, men out there, is this one. I will pin it in the comment. If I forget, let me know. I'll put a link to this guy. So essentially what it does is it doesn't just blow the leaves, it actually does fill this bag up with shredded leaves, which is hugely important. Whether you're top dressing your garden, you're making a leaf mold that you want a leaf mold much faster than it normally would take, and or you're using it in your compost. The shredded version of this is best because it has a higher surface area, and that higher surface area means more sites in which the microbes can penetrate and deal with that carbon or that material. It holds more moisture. It decomposes faster. Literally, this is the way you want to go. So yes, this is supposed to be meant to be filled and then moved to the city's compost. But Saskatchewan, city of Saskatchewan, anybody watching from there, I do not use it for that. I use it for my own personal storage system. So this never makes it onto the road. I'm sure you've noticed that by now. So thank you for the bin that you never get to use, but I use religiously all the time. So one incredibly important addition that is missing from my garden this year is the pest or the bug hotels that normally reside inside of them. So I had a little bit of extra soil left over, and I did have to put said soil into the garden beds and top these guys up. So with that, I did lose a lot of plant debris. Now I have moved a lot of it into the compost, but ideally speaking, you would leave as much plant debris as possible in place. And the reason for this is because, yes, harmful guys will overwinter. So if you have issues, then make sure you dispose of that material. But if you have a healthy garden, leave your branches and your leaves in place whenever possible. Number one, it's going to capture snow, which will increase moisture. but number two is the beneficial critters that it houses. Conservation biology in 2020 looked at the dirty corners within people's yards to look at exactly how many pollinators resided in the plant debris that was kind of just blown up into the corners in the fall. Well, it turns out that the leaving behind of that plant debris actually increased the pollinator population in that backyard space, that microclimate, by 40%. I was shocked when I read that. So if you want pollinators, which if you are a gardener that saves seeds and or does fruits and vegetables, trust me, that increase is massive. It can make a huge difference the following year's harvest. If you've ever had a cucumber that looks like this, for example, that is a sign of incomplete pollination, a sign that you don't have enough pollinators in your backyard. So do not sleep, or I guess you should sleep on the removal of the plants, because this opportunity is something that you get every single year and most people just completely ignore. So Geek Crew, you have to let me know in the comments below, what do you do in October to ensure success in the spring? I personally will do all of these things, obviously, other than the last one, and I will lock it all in kind of like a stock market exchange bid thingy and top it off with some mulch, because that will just help to amplify everything that I had mentioned in today's video. And